They say the mind never sleeps. Well, mine doesn't. All of my past therapists and psychiatrists can tell you that. Those were the last words from Laura Dixon before she vanished into the night. My name is Carrie Hensley. I've always been intrigued by interviewing strangers, mainly the homeless. I've been doing it now for about 2 years, and this is the story of my interview with Laura Dixon. Probably my best interview yet. First, a little about myself. I currently live in Seattle. I'm 33 years old, single, never been married, and no kids. Every now and then, I might date someone on my travels. I seem to like it that way. I grew up on the West Coast with my parents who are now separated. My mom still resides in San Francisco, and my father lives in New York, Manhattan to be exact. I'm able to visit both coasts during the holidays, which is always something to look forward to. I currently work as a financial consultant, which calls for me to travel around to different states. This job has been perfect for my new hobby. I go around and interview random people, asking questions here and there as they share their story. I've always loved documentaries growing up, and then in the last year, I recently got into video editing as well. Over the past 2 years, I've been compiling interviews and video footage of strangers telling their stories. Who knows, maybe one day I'll put out a documentary of my own with all of these very interesting people. One day, while in the office working, we were called into a meeting. Annette, the head of our company, said she needed 2 volunteers to travel this upcoming Friday and come back Monday. There were only 4 of us that had the experience to go to other states and make a long-lasting impression for our company. So which 2 will travel this week to seal the deal and get us a couple of new clients? Annette said while standing there in an all-white pantsuit. I always wondered if she ever knew. From a certain distance and in the right light, you could easily make out her thong underwear. Sometimes a few of us would head down for lunch and hit the food trucks. And sure enough, all the construction workers remodeling different floors of the building would be staring at her as if an alien had just stepped out of a UFO. She is hot, but who knows, maybe that's just men. Anyway, there were only 4 of us qualified, and we all knew Megan couldn't go. She was more than 8 months pregnant. That left the 3 of us. What are the 2 destinations? Dan asked. Annette responded, Arizona or New Orleans. All of us would always fight over who would go. We all loved to travel, room and board paid for. And the best part, if we landed a new client, we would get 6% of the revenue for the duration of the signed contract with the new company. That was a hell of an incentive. So it always came down to some type of game to win and be the one to travel. We would play rock, paper, scissors, or see who could get one side of a solid color on a Rubik's Cube first. We've pitched quarters up against a wall to see who could get the closest. We even once had a contest to see who could melt 3 ice cubes in their mouth the fastest. However, today, we were flipping coins. There were only the 3 of us. So Annette reached in her little change purse and threw us each a quarter. We're going to play odd or even this time, she said. The best out of 3. You will each flip the coin, catch it in one hand, and slap it on top of your other hand. Then call out odd or even, and the 3 of you will lift your hand to reveal if it's odd or even. Mike will call it first. The 3 of us flip the coins. Mike yells out, odd! Smack, smack, smack. We all lifted our hands up at the same time, and it was even. We all 3 had heads showing. We all flipped again. Mike yells out, even! Smack, smack, smack. We all lifted our hands up. It was odd. Mike had tails. Dan and I had heads. Well, Mike is out, Annette said. Who wants to go where? Both Dan and I responded, New Orleans. Well, looks like you guys will play 1 more round. Annette grabbed the quarter from Mike and said, I'll be the 3rd person. The winner will go to New Orleans. Best out of 3. Carrie, you call it. We all 3 flipped our quarters. Odd, I yelled out. Smack, smack, smack. We all lifted our hands. Odd it is, said Annette. Dan and Annette had tails, and I had heads. We all flipped again. Even, I called out. Smack, smack, smack. Dan, being the last one to lift up his hands, started yelling, Yes, yes, yes. It was odd. I had tails, and Annette and Dan both had heads. It was now 50-50. We all three flipped our coins with excitement. I knew I had to get even, so I called it. Even. Smack, smack, smack. Before lifting our hands, Dad said, I'll give you $150 cash right now if you let me go to New Orleans. No way, I said. Come on, Carrie. Okay, how about $250 then? No thanks, I responded. Before we lifted our hands to reveal what we had, Annette said, What's it going to be, Carrie? Walk with Dan's cash and go to Arizona? Or take your chances at going to New Orleans? New Orleans, I said. Just for the record, you did say even? Annette asked. Yep, even, I responded. We all lifted our hands as the whole room erupted in chaos. Claps, boos, and shouting. We all three had heads. I tossed my quarter to Dan while laughing and said, I'm going to New Orleans. Friday was here, and I was in the air. I knew selling our services would be a piece of cake. My flight landed, and I was shuttled to my hotel. I couldn't wait to check in and unpack. My meeting was in an hour with the new clients. I knew the faster I could get them to sign with our company today, I would have the whole weekend to conduct interviews. Now, I'm not into sightseeing or learning the history of a city or state. To me, that is kind of a tourist type thing. Sure, I can appreciate a historical value. However, I really love people watching. I enjoy trying new food, and I have my sights set on a few good restaurants out here I want to try. I freshened up before heading out to meet with the clients. The meeting took a lot longer than I expected. My pitch went over rather well, then it was just question after question. I'm glad to say it ended with a handshake and we were in business. I was now free to do what I wanted over the weekend. As much as I wanted to get out and about and right to it, it had been a long day. I made the decision to get a bite to eat, then return to my hotel for a hot shower and a good night's sleep. I wanted to get up bright and early, perhaps take the trolley up and down Canal Street, looking for people to talk to and maybe interview them. I can't lie, I accidentally slept in. I took my morning shower and got dressed in my casual clothes, along with a good pair of walking shoes. I grabbed my camera, tripod, and microphone and 2 fully charged batteries. Oh yeah, can't forget the new SD card. I zipped up my backpack and out the door I went. I figured I would get a quick coffee and a bagel down at the hotel restaurant. Canal Street was in walking distance from my hotel to catch the trolley for a while. I didn't run into anyone on the way that looked interesting enough to talk to. I hopped on the trolley and would try my luck there. Turns out it wasn't the best idea. It seems everyone that was getting on was quick to get off within 5 to 10 minutes, plus it was pretty packed. And no one really stood out either. A little time had passed and I would find myself getting back off where I had begun. I figured I would walk to Bourbon Street and see what it might have to offer. And, out of nowhere, there she was. A somewhat attractive woman, yet dressed in a homeless type of way. I might have missed her had I not heard her yell out to someone, "Yeah, fuck you too." She had just passed me but was on the other side of the street. I quickly crossed, now heading in her direction, following her. I just had to know her story. I caught up to her on the corner at the red light. I was looking to my left as I was trying to figure out how I was going to start up a conversation with her. Then I heard her speaking. Hey you." I turned towards her. She looked at me and took a step closer. "You don't happen to have a cigarette, do you?" she asked. I knew that was my in. Even though I had quit smoking 5 years ago, I can remember when someone would ask me to bum a smoke, I would tell them, "Sure, I'll give you a cigarette, but first you have to tell me a joke." I learned a lot of jokes that way. The problem was, I didn't have any smokes on me. I responded, "I don't, sorry. But I'll tell you what, there's a CVS right across the street there. If you can spare me a little bit of your time, I'd be willing to buy you a pack." "What's your definition of time?" she asked. "Well, if at all possible, I would like to interview you, record it on camera, and maybe get a few pictures," I told her. She replied, "You didn't answer the question. What's your definition of time?" I'm not sure. I guess I'm not sure I have one." The light turned green. We were walking across the street, and she said, "I tell you what, if you buy me a bottle of liquor and a carton of smokes, this day will be the two of us captured somewhere in time. Every step taken is a step into the future. That same step becomes our past." I now know what she was saying. Our every step forward would be our past. We were now across the street, standing in front of the CVS. Without hesitation or debate, I said, "Sure, no problem. Come on, what kind of cigarettes do you smoke?" As I led the way through the automatic censored doors. We were in and out, her bottle of vodka in one hand and the carton of Marlboro Lights in the other. She cracked the bottle and took a drink, then placed it on the ground and opened the carton to pull out a pack, anxious for a smoke. She pulled a lighter from her pocket and lit one. With a deep inhale, picking up her bottle, she exhaled and asked if I wanted one. I waved and declined, saying I quit a while back, no thanks. She took another drink and asked, "Outside of interviewing people, what would be a close to your first and stick as the second?" Her way of words would be confusing, yet mesmerizing. "It would have to be people watching," I responded. She then said, "Okay, come on, let's go." "Where are we going?" I asked. "There's a nice little corner bar like on Bourbon Street," she told me. "You can conduct our interview there while we both people watch." She would stop here and there to take a drink of liquor and light up a new cigarette. I didn't feel like asking any questions on the way. Whatever she had to say, I wanted to save it all for when I pushed record on my camera. The walk took about 25 minutes. Then, she entered a bar on the corner. Immediately, the bartender called out, "Hey, how you doing, Laura?" She just threw her hand in the air and said, "Good." That's when I first found out her name. It was obvious they knew each other, and he had no problem with her sitting in the bar, smoking and looking out on the passerbys. It's as if we were outside, but yet still in the bar. "This is a nice place," I said as we took a seat on the stools. She didn't respond. The bartender came over and asked, "What can I get you two?" Laura responded quickly, saying, "I'll have what she's having." I looked at the bartender, raising my eyebrows, and said, "I'm gonna have a vodka soda with cranberry." "Okay, coming right up," he said. I took my camera out of the bag, popped in a fully charged battery, and inserted a new SD card. Then attached it to a small tripod and turned it on before I pressed record. She said, pointed out there. "You can pick up my voice, but no need to film me. The visual you want is out there." Our drinks arrived. "Here you go, ladies. Enjoy. If you need anything, just holler." The place wasn't busy, just a few people sitting at the bar and an older couple sitting at a table. I took a sip of my drink. Laura took another swig from her bottle. I removed the microphone from the top of the camera and positioned it facing towards us. I then pressed record. Without starting off with any questions, she took a drag of her cigarette and began talking. "Look at them. They're everywhere." She waved her finger in the air, left to right, pointing. "They're all caught up in a moment, sharing the stage with one another. All through life, there have always been inventors, artists, poets, musicians. All of these people walking in front of us right now wish they were inspired to be such. They are no more than extras in a movie. It's a casting of ignorance. They're only fitted for that role at best. They all just want to be action figures, taking up space, nothing more than a pulse. We both took a sip from our drinks. She flicked her cigarette out onto the street, lit another one, and kept talking. You know, all that school shooting shit across America is nothing more than everybody pointing their fingers aimlessly. And then you have economy this, economy that. Hell, the quilting business alone is an $8 billion a year industry. Not to mention shit like music, all sporting events, television networks and providers, porn, internet. Hell, combine them all with the sale of cat and dog food, or any other animal products in general. One might then re-question and come up with a manageable healthcare plan. And all that military shit, again, action figures. I'm not saying there is no need for military protection. However, the amount of money consumed is an annual signed blank check. Taxes, taxes, taxes. I get it. Do most people get it? Fuck no. There is a place in my heart for being productive and manageable standards, mixed with a thread of routine and going out of bounds, being spontaneous. Things are being taught at a slow pace. Education only fits and is suggested to what one wants and makes of it, and still might experience somewhere in their travels a sleight of hand. Owing student loans to an establishment no longer needed. I don't need to be fucked over like that. She flipped her cigarette out onto the street again, then finished her drink and twisted the top off the bottle of liquor and took a swallow. Her bottle was almost gone. She lit up another cigarette as I was finishing my drink. I normally ask people questions during interviews, who they are, where they are from, and whatnot. This was different. I just had to listen. She looked at me and offered me a cigarette. I waved it off and said, "I'm okay, no thanks." She turned her head back to the passerbys and said, "If this is somehow part of your not knowing or having a definition of time, then I think it's time you get us another drink. His name is John. He won't bite. We used to fuck a while back. He's good people." "Okay," I said. "I'm gonna use the restroom real quick, too." She looked at me and said, "Go on," waving her hand to go ahead. "I'll watch your things. Your camera and shit ain't going nowhere. Go ahead," with her hand gesture shooing me away. I pushed the button to stop recording on my camera, grabbed our glasses, and walked up to the bar. John, the bartender, was cleaning and drying glasses with a towel. "Ready for another round?" he said. "Yeah, we'll take a couple more, please." He reached out for a handshake. "I'm John, by the way." "I'm Carrie." "Well, nice to meet you," he said. Reaching for a couple new glasses, he asked, "So, how do you know Laura?" "Actually, I really don't know her." "Oh yeah? So, what do you think of her so far? Laura is something else, isn't she?" "Aren't we all?" I responded. "Where are your restrooms located?" "Yeah, they're right there back through the swinging doors, across the patio. Can't miss it." As I walked back into the bar, there was a jazz band setting up for the night. John had just finished pouring our drinks and said, "Here you go. Would you like to start a tab?" "Yeah, why not?" I responded, handing him my credit card. I looked to where we had been sitting, and Laura wasn't there. My backpack and camera were still in the same spot. "Oh, she's just outside pacing, don't worry," John said before I could ask. "She can't sit still, that girl." "Thanks," I told him, while picking up my drink to take a sip. "So you and Laura just met today?" John asked. "Yeah, a couple hours ago when she asked to bum a cigarette." "Well, she has some interesting viewpoints," John said. "Catch her on a different day and she can be rather boring and simple." "Oh, here she comes," John said, pointing towards the entrance. Laura headed back to our seats while waving me over aggressively. "I'll bring you ladies a couple shots on the house," John said as I grabbed our drinks to head back to Laura. I went to hand Laura her drink. "Just put it down right there." she said as she lit yet another cigarette. I pushed record and took a seat. I thought, if I had one question to ask her, what would I want to know? So I asked, "Do you believe in yourself?" "I do," she said quickly, to the point of a fault. Most people don't even know how to begin to answer that question, responding with questions like, "What do you mean? In what sense?" Or, quick to bite back with the same question, "Do you believe in yourself?" A question like that is 9 times out of 10 answered in a way to avoid or change the subject. I said yes, I believe in myself. My fault being, I don't believe in others. Others don't believe in me. John walked up with our shots in hand. Laura grabbed her shot, slammed it, and handed the glass back to him before he could even set mine on the table. Cheers, I said before taking my shot, while feeling out of place but not offended. "We'll take another when you get a chance," Laura said. "You got it," John replied. Laura turned to me and said, "Why is it that people fear, question, and degrade one's lifestyle?" She leaned in closer and asked me, "Have you ever been with a woman?" I'm assuming she expected something other than how I answered. "Actually, yeah, I have, a few times," I responded. Laura shot back in her chair, threw her arms up, and shouted, "So you want to fuck tonight?" It was one of those awkward moments where the entire bar was cast in silence and everyone looked in our direction. We both started laughing as a guy from the other side of the bar yelled back, "Hell yeah! My place or yours?" The entire crowd erupted in laughter, followed by a drum roll and cymbal crash. Ba-dum-tsh. The jazz band was about to start their first set. The singer tapped on the microphone and said, "Well, ladies and gentlemen, we normally start out our set a little different, but tonight we're going to start with a tune dedicated to the young ladies there in the corner. We're going to call this one, 'So You Wanna Fuck Tonight?'" Followed by applause, laughter, woos and whistles as the band got into their first song of the night. The bar was filling up quickly now that the music was in full swing. John headed towards us with another round of drinks and shots. It was a bit too loud to continue the interview at this point, so after a couple of songs, Laura grabbed me by the wrist and said, "Let's step out to the front where it's a bit more quiet." As I watched Laura pull out another cigarette, I now wanted one too. Before I could even ask, she handed me a lit cigarette and lit another one for herself. The first drag gave me a rush and made me feel lightheaded. It was lightly raining, and my hair doesn't stand a chance in this humidity. I wasn't too worried about my hair at this point. I was now taking in the sounds and colorful lights that reflected off the wet street. I took another drag of my cigarette, admiring the fog while appreciating this brief moment in my life. Laura started up again, saying, "Isn't it funny when you watch the news, every story or segment is one of few things? You've got overwhelming exaggerations of happiness, then a flash to some bullshit weather, followed by a violence going unnoticed with a lack of concern. Then back into fake laughter, corny jokes, touch on some sports, and right back into weather. No one gives a fuck about the weather. Just overshadowing it all, taking up 3/4 of an already bullshit newscast anyway. It is a beautiful night, isn't it?" "It really is," I replied. "Family is fake and friends are a lie," Laura continued. "My sister Gina used to grab me by the hair when we were younger and push my face towards the mirror while saying, 'If you want to manipulate in life, you have to know how to get change for a quarter.' 25 fucking cents. Well, Carrie, it's well past the 2-hour mark, and I have to go. It was nice bullshitting with you. I left my number on the napkin next to your camera if you ever want to talk again. I'm always up for it. They say that mine never sleeps. Well, mine doesn't. All of my past therapists and psychiatrists can tell you that." Those were the last words I heard from Laura Dixon before she vanished into the night. After a few short steps, she finished the last of her vodka and tossed the empty bottle to the ground. She crossed the street and disappeared behind the fog.